You get a bulk discount buying an entire motorcycle. A whole bike is a lot cheaper than the sum of its parts. Try building a motorcycle from scratch by buying all OEM parts from the dealer, and you'll find that the finished product is ridiculously expensive. That's a bit of a joke because nobody will do that. So this creates a bit of a pickle if you're like me and you enjoy building bikes but are also romantic enough that you don't want to chop up a perfectly functioning bike. Because of the sort of quantity discount of buying a whole bike, it becomes difficult sometimes to find a bike that makes economic sense to customize. I recently had the opportunity to buy a Ducati for $350. This is very cheap. It did, however, have a cracked engine case, but the engine was not seized, so that's a big bonus. It was also missing the carburetors, the exhaust, the fuel tank, the headlight, the seat, and the plastics, plus some other minor stuff. It was, because of its sort of already stripped down state, a pretty good candidate for customization. It was a good starting point to make a custom exhaust, make a custom subframe and a seat, and maybe even make a fuel tank. I don't know. But those were just the obvious issues, and there are always hidden issues and costs. And when I added up just the obvious costs, I quickly exceeded $1,000. I could easily be into this bike for $2,000 and many hours of labor. And this is problematic for me in making choices on bikes to customize when I can find Ducatis on Craigslist for $2,000, which is rare, but I see them. I see them. Plus, this $350 bike had no title, and parts for a 1997 Ducati are hard to come by already. And also parts diagrams. So just identifying what parts are missing from this bike would be difficult. However, I wasn't entirely deterred, so I checked the VIN on VinCheck to make sure it wasn't stolen, and found out it wasn't stolen, but it did have a salvage history, which lowers its value. I mean, even though it doesn't have a title, I could get a bonded title for it, and this would cost $100 to $200, and it would provide insurance against any possible title claims in the future. So I could spend a lot of time building this bike, as well as enough money to buy a bike that's already running, and that is enough to deter most reasonable persons. But I am not reasonable when it comes to motorcycles, because I love them. But then it would have a bonded title and a salvage history, and I start to get a sour taste in my mouth. However, it would be a custom motorcycle because I would customize it, and at least to me, that means I should like it more because it's custom to what I like. But, and here's the kicker, I don't have the vision for what this finished bike would look like. I mean, what does a radically customized Ducati look like? I mean, I've never seen one. Have you? The ones I've seen, custom Ducatis, I mean, the guys spend a lot of money and time working on these things. They look beautiful, but they still look very much like Ducatis. And that is kind of my problem with it, is that if I'm going to spend that much time and effort on it, I want it to be distinguishably different, you know? But whether or not I can imagine a radical Ducati custom is beside the point in this thesis, because what we are trying to do is identify what the problem is with super cheap bikes. I mean, first off, a lot of these don't have titles, but that can be remedied in certain ways. There are avenues for that. Also, some of them are stolen, and that, well, you're out of luck on that one. Don't buy those. And then some, like this Ducati and my Honda Goldwing that I built, they have been abandoned by the industry and parts are unavailable. This can mean that available bikes are cheap, but hard to repair. In the case of the Goldwing, parts were also cheap, but that's because there are a lot of Goldwings laying around here in the States. It's the opposite for the Ducati though, because there are not many of them around, and so parts are in short supply and expensive. And so this Ducati is actually worth more as parts than it would be to restore or to customize. I would like to play with the Ducati someday, and so I'll keep my eyes open for a newer one that still has part support, and I'll probably end up paying more for the initial bike than I would in this case. But that's part of how it goes, but the build will be a lot easier as a result. And so HooptieDoodle is still dreaming of the next bike build, but we'll let you know when we find it. See you next time, my friends.